All right, everybody. Um, so today we are going to talk about. So we've been, we're about three quarters, three fifths, more really, probably three quarters through the semester at this point. And we've done a lot. We've done basic, keyframe animation. You guys, know how to move things around, rotate, talk about effects, things like masks and mats. What else have we talked about? Green screening, position tracking. You guys have done some projects with this. We've worked with at least basic levels of sound, typography, things like that. Today's Last week we did expressions, which is kind of more about programming aspects using JavaScript to affect motion and things like that. Today we're going to talk about kind of like techniques, I would call it. Okay. Which is to say, these are things you can do to improve your project. Okay. Make your project stronger. Okay. We are going to talk about sort of what I would call motion techniques and what I call animation techniques. Okay, I'm going to get into something called the 12 principles of animation, which is, even though this is not officially an animation course, there's definitely overlap between motion graphics and animation. If you haven't taken, I strongly recommend the Digital 12A course. Should be offered in the fall if you haven't taken it, which is a course about animation. We're going to do like a very truncated version of that here. Okay. All right. One of the first techniques we're going to talk about is motion blur. Okay. What is motion blur? Motion blur is one of these things that it doesn't exist what I call in real life. Real life is how you view things with your own eyes. When you view like a car going down the street, your eyes can map out that car moment to moment to moment to moment. Okay. However, when you use a camera, whether a still camera or a video camera like on your phone or whatever, or a nice powerful Nikon or whatever, when an object is moving, the camera can't, it's hard for the camera to lock it in at that moment because I don't want to get too deep in how cameras move, but basically, because it takes a camera like a fraction of a second to store the data, the car's already moving past it because it's in motion. And so what you get is something called motion blur. So here, this particular artist tried to capture this car going down the street going however fast it's going, and it has motion blur. Okay. And as humans, we've seen enough pictures, with motion blur, and we've seen enough movies with motion blur that we kind of, our brain goes, oh, well, if something is moving really fast, there should probably be some motion blur. Okay. So how does this, what does this have to do with After Effects and effects? Well, I'm going to open up exercise one. And what I got here is this text, and it's moving across the page, right? And it's going fast. You can see it here. And it's fine, there's nothing wrong with it. But what we could do to kind of give it a little bit more of that sort of realism kind of effect is there's this thing here. Oops, if I can do it properly. In our toggles and switches, I'm probably not zooming on your side, but whatever. See this thing that looks like three circles. This is called motion blur. And what it does, kind of said it really quick, it simulates shutter duration. And what that really means is that, like I said, like this is something that happens on cameras where it tries to capture an object that's in motion and you end up getting blur. So I'm going to turn this on. And then when I do this, See how there's like a little bit more blur there? This is without, this is with, okay? And actually, what I'm going to do, I had it going like across the entire page, but maybe I'm just gonna like, I don't know. Maybe I'm going to have it stop here. And you'll notice that it was blurry when it's moving, and then when it becomes stationary, it goes back to being clear, okay? Whereas if I didn't have this on, you don't have that level of blur. That makes sense versus if I had it like this. So this is just like a little, so what does this mean? If you are animating something that's supposed to be very fast, um, where the object, it's like an object that's in fast motion compared to its background, you might want to sort of make what I would call faux motion blur here, and you can kind of do that there, okay? All right, the next thing is something called ease in and ease out. This is something that's going to get a little bit physicsy, okay? So let's say I have an object like this roll of duct tape, okay? And I have it moved from the left side of the screen to the right side. So if I were to set keyframes using the position in After Effects and have it go from the left to the right, the speed of the object, meaning how fast it's going, would be the same throughout the whole motion, meaning the speed here is the same speed here, is the same speed here, is the same speed here. Okay. However fast it's going, the speed is what we would call constant. Okay. Now, the way that would look in a graph, this is like kind of minor physics stuff here, is like if this is a graph and this is like the speed, the line would look like this because the speed is constant. It's never slower, it's never faster, it's always the same. It's constant. Okay. In real life, when objects move, they don't usually move in the same speed. Okay. So, example, let's say there's a car and the car is stopped at a stop sign. And then it goes from that stop sign onto a highway. It doesn't go at kind of a constant rate. Instead, it kind of goes like this. It starts off kind of slow because it's building momentum and speed in in the accelerator, and then it goes up really fast. So it kind of look like that, okay? As opposed to if it was going at a constant speed, in terms of distance, this is like meaning it's the same speed, this is the speed, this is the distance here. It would be going at a constant rate, okay? The same as if something slows down. If something slows down, like a car gets off the highway, it doesn't usually kind of go at a constant rate to the stop sign or wherever, the stoplight, wherever it's stopping. It kind of stops and then kind of eases into the stop. You know what I mean? In other words, it would kind of look like that, where it's like it's losing a lot of momentum or speed at the beginning and then kind of like more slowly over time. And this is how things in real life usually work. Things don't usually go at a constant rate. They accelerate in, or sometimes they accelerate out, meaning they, slow in, slow out. In motion, we call that ease in and ease out. I'm going to show you guys how we can apply that. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. All right, I got a car here. Okay. And the motion path is just from the upper left to the lower right. If you look at my, all right, so you're in exercise 2. There's a car and it's moving. And if I hit play over the course of 2 seconds, its speed is relatively constant. It's the same speed here as it is here, as it is here, as it is there. Okay. What I want to do is call an ease I'm going to do an ease out. And what that would do is have it slow down fast, go from whatever its beginning speed is to slower quickly, and then kind of ease its way to the finish line here. Okay, this is kind of like when I was explaining of a car, like, kind of coming off the highway and kind of easing its way into a stop sign. The way you could do this is highlight the keyframe that you want to apply this to, go to animation, and then you want to go to keyframe assistant, easy ease out. Now, what that's going to do is it's going to make this thing that kind of looks like a V shape. And then now when I press this, you can see that the speed is a little bit different there. Okay, see how it kind of eases its way in. If you want to have this go back to being a regular keyframe again, you can actually highlight and use either the Option or the Alt key, or sorry, not the Option or the Alt, the Command or the Control key. And if you click on that, that should cycle through it. You want to go back to the little diamond shape here. Okay. So the opposite of that would be ease in, which would mean it starts slow and then it goes faster. So here, let's take a look. So currently this is a constant speed, and I want this to ease in right there. So what I'm going to do is highlight this and go to keyframe assistant, easy ease in. So it's going to start fast and then kind of slow its way in there. Okay. All right, next, dib-a-dib-a-dib-do, let's do I have this car here, and it's going at a constant speed. What I'd like it to do is slow down here and then go speed up before it gets there. So really, this is like I'm really combining an ease in and an ease out. And the way I'm going to do that is go to keyframe assistant, easy in, easy ease total. And that makes this double-ended kind of, I always think it kind of looks like a, what do you call it? Hourglass. Okay, so see how it's kind of slowing down and then speeding up. Just to give you an idea, I'm gonna how it would look without this. I'm gonna do this without. So you can see that without it, this is the one without it. It's kind of it's sort of slower there, but then faster here. This is kind of like building up, and this is slowing in. All right. All right. So we talked about ease in, ease out is when something starts fast and goes slower, and ease in is when something starts slow and goes fast. Okay. I like to think of it as, in terms of physics, we would call this acceleration and deceleration. Okay. I'm going to talk about this in terms of animation, which is that in the world of animation, which is you're trying to make something seem like something in real life, right? You're trying to animate a person walking, or you're trying to animate a ball bouncing. You have to, or at least humans take things as a reference. And what I mean by that is when you view an animated ball bouncing, you're comparing that to seeing an actual ball in real life bouncing, right? Like think about a little rubber ball that bounces up and down with your kid or something like that, or on YouTube or whatever. That's what your mind is used to seeing. And so when you see an animated or a motion graphic version of that, your mind is constantly sort of comparing that, right? And that's why sometimes animations or motion graphics can feel like a little bit off if they don't sort of replicate what would actually happen in real life. Okay. Now, what happens in real life is everything is based on physics. Okay. Things like gravity. Okay. Gravity pulls up and down and all these sorts of things. So if we can mimic roughly the way physics works in real life to our animations or to our motion graphics, it's going to make it seem a little bit more natural. Okay. I know that seems, let me explain what I mean. Okay. Here, this is exercise 5, and I have a red ball. I think it's literally just a little vector graphic I made real quick. Yeah, it's just a little, vector graphic. Now, I want to make a ball bounce, okay? So really what I'm trying to do, I'm gonna do my best to kind of draw this, is, all right, here's the ball. Ball goes down. Let's pretend that this is the ground. So the ball's going to fall. And then what usually happens is, let's say the ball is made of rubber. It's going to react to hitting the ground and it's going to go back up, right? So the ball goes upward. Now, once again, there's actually something in, if you've ever dropped a ball and it bounces, you might notice that when the ball bounces up, it doesn't come to the same height that it was originally. Why is this? Well, once again, this is based on physics, okay? In physics, there's something called kinetic energy. And what happens is when an object collides with another object, like the ball bouncing off of the ground, it actually loses some of that kinetic energy. So when it bounces up, it's never going to be as high as it was normally. Now, there are situations where it could do this, like if it hit like a very bouncy material, like if it hit like a trampoline, or I don't know, somehow it has magical powers, attached to it or something. But if in a real world scenario where it's just hitting a wood floor or whatever, it would lose some of its kinetic energy and only bounce maybe like half to three-quarters of the way it did before. Okay. Then it's going to bounce again. And once again, it's going to lose some of its kinetic energy and come up to there. And this is going to just keep happening. It's going to go, boom, 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 boom. Okay. So that's what I'm trying to create. And, you know, what I have here is like, okay, my ball's starting there. I'm not gonna like do this all by hand, but you can kind of see, I'm just gonna explain what I did so you get an idea of how this works. I'm using the position and then it bounces. This is my ground, and it goes up, and then it goes back down, and then it goes up, and then it goes back down. Okay. So I'm using the height that it's bouncing vertically, the y-axis, as kind of showing my kinetic energy, right? And so let's take a look at that. So if I were to bounce this, all right, it's okay. I mean, it's not amazing, but it's okay. Now, what could we do to make this seem a little bit more natural? Well, let's add in the way gravity works, okay? If you had an object and you let it go, what happens is that object falls, okay? And it starts at a speed of 0. Like when I'm holding it, it's not moving at all in theory, so its speed is 0. And then when I let it go, the speed actually increases the longer it falls. If you know anything about physics, when we have gravity, gravity falls at 9.8 meters per second. So in other words, the longer it's falling, the faster it's going. Okay. Now, really what's happening is it's starting at a stopped point or zero in terms of speed, and it's increasing like that. What is that? Well, that's actually ease out. Okay. So what I'm going to do, so this is my example, and I have the same thing here. It's literally just a copy of the exact same keyframes. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and I'm going to set this to ease in, or sorry, ease out. Okay. What that means is that it's going to start slow and then increase its speed. Okay. Then when it bounces up, when an object goes up, like if I took a ball and I threw it up in the air, okay, what's actually happening is the ball or whatever you're throwing up in the air is fighting against gravity. Gravity is literally pushing against it. Okay. So if I throw an object in the air, the moment it leaves my hand, that's actually the fastest of the speed because I'm using my hand as like momentum. Then it's fighting against gravity. Gravity's trying to slow it down. Okay. This is why rocket ships have to have boosters on them because they're literally trying to break out of the gravity of our atmosphere. So what happens is gravity eventually wins. So, if I throw an object up in the air, if my hand is the ball, it eventually reaches a point where the gravity is stronger than the momentum that it has. And then it falls back down. When it falls back down, it actually goes back and it starts speeding up again. So what's happening here is it's starting slow and it's bouncing, and then it's gonna like this is the fastest and it needs to ease in here. And then actually the whole thing just starts again. It starts slow and it speeds up and then it bounces off the ground and it eases in. So what I could do is I could set this to ease in, but actually because this is, let me just kind of explain it. This is the ease in, and this part is the ease out. So actually what I'm going to do is the way you could do that is by using ease, easy ease. Let's do that here. And so now when I play this, see how that feels a little bit more natural? And it's not a lot. Like I didn't dramatically change a lot, but this constant of slowing, starting slow, speeding up, slowing down, speeding up, slowing down, speeding up. This is how things in real life really work. Very few things in life kind of work at a constant speed. You're gonna, even if I throw my arm like that, it's like I start slow and it goes faster, or I start fast and it kind of slows at the end. You know what I mean? So it's like I don't really just go, I'm trying to do very hard. Like it's almost robotic to try to do things at a constant rate. Humans don't usually do that, and a lot of things we see in real life don't work that way. So if you can apply a little bit of acceleration and deceleration, it can make the object feel just more natural. And when it looks more natural, people respond better because it more compares to what their mind thinks it should look like. Okay. So let's kind of explain it or show it. This is the original. It's okay, not horrible. Now, when I add in ease in and ease out, see how that felt a little bit better? Okay. So this is what I mean by techniques. We're learning technique, this has nothing to do with how you place a keyframe or whatever, but understanding how speed works and how that can apply to your graphics. So like, you know, if I wanted something to kind of start fast and come slower, I could use an ease in or something like that. And this would, make your graphics feel a little bit just more smoother. Okay. So try that out. That was exercise 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, please.